This new ETF could destroy JEPQ. JEPQ is a fund that's not new to the spotlight because it's arguably one of the best dividend ETFs that money could even buy. Now, the JP Morgan Nasdaq Equity Premium Income ETF, or JEPQ, is one of the best ETFs out there if you want exposure to one of the best growth indexes, that being the tech-heavy Nasdaq 100 index. Except you have less volatility because JEPQ is based off a covered call strategy, so you get paid every single month regardless if the ETF goes up or down in price. And of course, the best benefit is going to be that high monthly dividend income of around 9%. With JEPQ, you get all the best benefits from monthly dividends, diversification, great performance, to even one that's crushed the likes of VU and SHD, two other popular ETFs over the last 3 years, which is just insane. Now, you might be thinking, is there really a new ETF out there that's very similar to JEPQ from all its benefits and could possibly dethrone it as the new high dividend ETF king, or could possibly destroy JEPQ altogether? Well, you'd be surprised to hear that there might be a new heavyweight contender out there, that of GPIQ, or the Goldman Sachs Nasdaq 100 Core Premium Income ETF. Usually when there's a new ETF or strategy out there that's very successful, in the case of JEPQ, usually you'll have another investment firm or company out there trying to copy its success but make it a little bit better for investors. In this case, we have a Goldman Sachs trying to contend with arguably its biggest rival of JP Morgan. Now that we have JEPQ and GPIQ, I'm going to be putting both these ETFs into a head-to-head ETF battle to see which one is the new best dividend ETF king, and to see if GPIQ lives up to the hype and is actually better than JEPQ. These ETFs' fate will be decided based on a scorecard of diversification, dividend yield, dividend stability, expense ratio, total returns, with my famous ranking out of 5 stars at the end. So with all that out of the way, let's get started. Starting off with the home field advantage of JEPQ, I don't want to bore you with the background of this ETF since I just gave that earlier in this video, but very quickly, JEPQ is an ETF that provides monthly dividend income and Nasdaq 100 exposure with less volatility. JEPQ achieves this by writing out-of-the-money Nasdaq 100 call options on the index with a team of highly knowledgeable portfolio managers that do all the hard work for you to earn this passive income stream. Now moving on to our contender of GPIQ. Now GPIQ's objective is to provide monthly dividends as well as capital appreciation, basically the same thing as JEPQ. 3 reasons to consider GPIQ is it seeks to provide consistent monthly payments from its options premium strategy and equity dividends. It provides core exposure with lower volatility to the Nasdaq 100 index and sells call options on this index, so it allows for capital appreciation and potential outperformance in down or flat markets. And finally, a diversifying source of income, since this ETF has lower correlation to traditional income sources. Now, this sounds awfully just like JEPQ and seems like GPIQ is copying JEPQ, so they're basically twins in my book. On the bright side though, I did find some minor differences between both these ETFs that are actually quite interesting. One thing to note is that GPIQ is based almost exactly on the Nasdaq 100, while JEPQ is based on an actively managed fund or portfolio similar to the Nasdaq 100. GPIQ also keeps its dividend payments more consistent than JEPQ, which can be something very important to consider if you plan to retire or live off the dividends of any of these ETFs in retirement. Kicking us off with the first category on our scorecard is diversification. JEPQ has 106 different companies that actively manages a portfolio similar to the Nasdaq 100 and has high quality large cap companies like Apple, Microsoft, Nvidia, Amazon, Google, and Meta. JEPQ is mostly invested in technology stocks but also has other sector exposure like consumer discretionary, communication services, consumer staples, healthcare, and many more as well. GPIQ, on the other hand, has 112 different companies. Our usual suspects are featured in this fund like Nvidia, Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Broadcom, and Tesla, with a very similar layout regarding its sector allocation as well. Final verdict is that both these ETFs are going to be quite diversified for what they are, being covered call Nasdaq 100 ETFs, but GPIQ is going to have a better shot at tracking the Nasdaq 100 better than JEPQ. However, I'm going to give both the JEPQ and GPIQ their first points on the board for diversification as a tie all across the board. Moving on is our next category of dividend yield. GPIQ has a current starting dividend yield of just over 10%, while JEPQ has a starting dividend yield of around 9.5%. This one is an easy no-brainer. GPIQ takes the lead with its second point on the board for dividend yield. The third category is going to be with dividend stability. Now, what I mean by dividend stability is how stable is going to be those monthly dividend payments, because if you plan on living off of dividends in retirement, you don't want the dividends to be erratic or volatile, because you want to budget accurately and have enough money coming in from cash flow, then you can live off of dividends. Rest assured that you will never freak out or worry about if you have enough money to pay for expenses and whatnot. So dividend stability is quite important in my opinion. For GPIQ, we can see that the dividends have been super stable every single month, probably the most perfect graph of dividend income that I've ever seen from a monthly dividend paying ETF like this. JEPQ will vary a lot more in terms of its dividends, so you might have some big months some months and then some low months as well along the way, which is pretty normal. For the dividend stability category, I'm definitely going to have to go with the GPIQ for its third point on the board, overtaking JEPQ once again. Yet another no-brainer. I'm going to give GPIQ yet another point on the board, so it's its fourth point on the board over JEPQ. Lastly, we have total returns. Now, the total returns are going to be the share price appreciation of an ETF plus any dividends incurred along the way. It should be worth noting that both these ETFs came out during a bull market, so it's going to be quite unpredictable to see the outcome of these ETFs in the future, and GPIQ came out in late 2023 and JEPQ came out in 2022, so keep that in mind. Over the last 3 years, we have some missing data for GPIQ, but that's okay. So JEPQ has returned over 50%, beating out GPIQ over the last 3 years, and over just the last year, the same is true as well, as JEPQ has just beat out GPIQ by a small margin. With that, I'm going to give JEPQ its second point on the board to make the score a touch closer at 4-2 for both of these ETFs. In my opinion, JEPQ is still easily a 5-star ranking ETF. JEPQ has been around longer, it's been able to generate dividend growth, it's been a fan favorite by so many investors, and it's going to be an excellent choice for dividend income investors because it's such a great ETF for covered calls. With a GPIQ, I'm going to give this ETF a 5-star ranking as well. GPIQ is a newer ETF, so I would like to see about 2 to 3 years more returns from this fund as a higher dividend yield, a lower expense ratio, and can be a great alternative consideration choice to JEPQ. Tallying up all the scores, GPIQ comes in with a total of 4 points, while JEPQ comes in with a total of just 2 points. So congratulations to our winner of this ETF battle of GPIQ, the Goldman Sachs Nasdaq 100 Core Premium Income ETF. Now, with all this new information, should you sell JEPQ for GPIQ? I would say no. This is not financial advice, but maybe you could consider something like allocating some more funds from JEPQ that you would have to then GPIQ instead. Both of these funds are high quality dividend income paying ETFs. You can't go wrong with either or. Just choose what is best for you and your goals. Both are going to be great. Don't overthink it. Do whatever fits you and do you. As always, if you want to see my entire ETF portfolio, click the link in the description of this video and check out Blossom, a free investing app where you can see my entire ETF portfolio, my buys, and just everything about my investing journey for free on Blossom. Now, if you guys like this video, please give it a like because this cute puppy did. Now go ahead and check out this video if you want to see 6 of the best high monthly dividend income ETFs that pay dividends to live off of dividends 3 times faster. Love you guys so much. Continue to crush in the stock market and take it easy. Peace.